Righto team, it's time to join Griffo and I in this episode of Funny Business. Poorly named, I'd have to say, given we are talking about how to cope when business is anything but funny.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Australia's #1 marketing show. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. You, so much more importantly, are a motivated business owner ready to crank out some great marketing, and that is exactly what we do around here. If you are a new listener to this show, you have entered a space where your marketing is about to take your business to a whole nother level. And we are very kindly brought to you today by the good folk at Net Registry, who get your online marketing sorted. A little bit more on them in a minute. As well as 99 Designs, the world's largest graphic design marketplace where you get a design you love guaranteed. Gotta love that. Hey, big show today. Australia's #1 small business author, Andrew Griffiths, joins me, and we throw around some strategies for keeping your business running during a crisis. I tackle a listener question about social media links, about my social media links actually. I share an amazing result a listener and coaching client of mine has had. Mind-blowing. Hashtag mind-blowing. I've got an inspiring marketing quote from that celebrated marketer, Martin Luther King. Plus, we'll have a little check-in. So much to cover, so little time. As per usual, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing HQ. So let's get stuck right in.
Join the Small Business Big Marketing community and have your marketing questions answered by other motivated business owners, including Timbo, over at crankmymarketing.com.
Righto, time for a check-in. How are you going? How's business? Cranking? I've still got the man flu. Yep. But with the man flu comes more time to read. I've had to put my feet up, which I don't normally do. Right now, I am reading the biography of Keith Richards, Rolling Stone kind of guy. Very interesting. It's kind of a biography, as you would imagine, about music, but he does make the point that he did the hours. There's a couple of pages in it where he just talks about doing the hours when he was a young bloke, out of school, when everyone else was out partying. He was studying music, blues to be specific. I think there's a lesson there for us. You're doing the hours by listening to this show. You got to study. You got to know more than the competition. And, you're doing that by listening to this show, reading books about marketing, business, networking, speaking to others, being the best business owner you can be. So well done for that. And I tell you what, the Keith Richards bio, it's pretty bloody good. Welcome. 32 new forum members have signed up in the last week. Threatened with the idea of a price rise, they came out of the woodwork. And I love that. Oh, I wish it was 232, but I'm happy with 32. Lukey's happy with 32. He's my forum offsider. Hey, we've got new members from Northern Ireland and the Shetland Islands off Scotland. Don't quite know where they are. They'd be cold, I reckon. We've got new members. One's a nurse who looks after sick and injured horses. Got DJs, got yoga teachers, got interior designers. We've got people inside the Small Business Big Marketing Forum from all over the world, from all different businesses, categories, industries. It's exciting. B2B, that's business to business. B2C, business to consumer. But most importantly, they're all P2P, people to people. But seriously, guys, welcome all 32 new members in the last week. It doesn't mean you can't still join. $69 a month. Think of it as like marketing insurance, and head over to crankmymarketing.com and sign up now. I call it the inner circle. It's our secret place where we grow our businesses. Hey, what else have I got this week? Speaking, it's Small Business Month in Victoria. I'm hosting an event for Census in Richmond on Tuesday, talking about digital marketing. And I'm off to Perth on Thursday for a job on Friday for ConnectWise, talking to some IT kind of guys, giving a helpful marketing keynote and running a 1-hour workshop on podcasting. Big news next week. I'll be speaking at a podcasting conference in Australia later this year. Happy with that. What else have I got? Oh, what about... It's been a big week. Despite the fact that I've had man flu, I have man flu, it has been a big week. So I am going to go on a little bit today. Stick with me. Big responses to the last 2 episodes with David Warren about outsourcing. You know, every now and then you feel like you've hit pay dirt, or you've hit the oil. I think David's done that with his outsourcing solutions. If you haven't listened to episode, I think it's 254 and 255, then they're great stories and great insights into how to successfully outsource, specifically to the Philippines. As I said, I'm going on one of his tours on September 21, 3-day tour, and there's been a number of listeners who have booked. Thank you for that. There's been a number of listeners who have in fact, David, he's spending the next week. I just spoke to him before I hit record today. He has got a lot of phone calls with listeners in the coming week about helping them start their outsourcing journey. To get more stuff done with less, without breaking the bank. It's exciting times. So head over if you want to make contact with David. Maybe you want to come on one of these outsourcing tours to the Philippines. But even if you don't, even if you just want to put an outsourcing team together of, whatever, VAs or bookkeepers or designers, whatever it may be, head over to rockingtheboattours.com because that's where you can make contact with him. And tell him Timbo sent you. I hope it's been a great week for you. Next week, I think it's just going to get better and better. Stick with me here. Let's get in a huddle and just agree, look each other in the eye and say, you know what? Every week going forward, my business, your business is going to grow exponentially. Support for this show comes from 99 Designs, where dozens of designers compete to deliver a fast, affordable design you'll love. Speaking of love, their big cheese, Patrick Llewellyn, recently compared 99 Designs to a dating site.
We really think of contests almost like the dating paradigm. You go to a nightclub, it's noisy, there's a lot of people to meet, you get to meet a lot of people, and if you're lucky, at the end of that process, you might meet someone, right? And then you go on and have dates. And so a contest is kind of like that paradigm. You put up your proposal, lots of designers submit their ideas, and then you start to whittle down to a few of the ones that really resonate with you. And then ultimately you pick one of them. And once you've picked that one designer, the chances of you going on to work with that designer to get other things designed is actually very high.
99 Designs, where love is in the air. For a free $99 upgrade on your first design, visit 99designs.com/Timbo.
Get on Timbo's mailing list over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.
Hey, now I've got to share this wonderful, wonderful email I received from a long-time listener and a marketing coaching client of mine. I won't mention names, but there is massive learning here, team. Massive, massive learning. Listen to what this guy has done and go and apply it to your business right now. He says, Timbo, I thought I would share this one with you. This happened since I've been taking more of an interest in marketing after listening to your podcast. I have now taken a different tack when quoting or pitching to potential customers. Our customers are many and varied and all with different problems. Welcome to the world. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all industry. This happened in a meeting with a very big corporate prospect recently. Me on one side of a big boardroom table, 4 of them on the other. Oh, gee, they brought the army. They started with the, so, what is it you guys do? I know you sell stuff, but what makes you so special? So I started with, I'm not here to talk about me. What's your problem? Them. Silence. Me. I mean, I can sit and tell you how great I am, but that means nothing to you. Oh, I'm loving his thinking already. Them. What do you mean? Me. I can bang on about price, service, range all day, but until I solve your problems and make your life easier, I am just like everyone else. Oh, I get excited when I read stuff like this. Them. Well, we do have some issues at the moment. Me. Like what? And that started the conversation. I never gave them any prices, any brands, any range. I promised them one thing. You tell me what problems you have and I will provide you with a solution. He then goes on to say, so that led into some supply problems they were having with other suppliers. We ended up cutting their lead time down from 6 weeks to 6 hours. That's problem solving right there. Love that. We started off by supplying just one product. Now business with them has grown and we supply about 300 SKUs. There's an acronym. That would be stock keeping units. They are now our best customer. And then this listener goes on to talk about how this approach has led to even more referrals. How good's that? Hey, the lesson there is we are all problem solvers. You've heard me talk about that before. I talk about a lot in the forum. Helpful marketing is based around the idea that you are there to solve the problems of your clients. This, listen, that's the email, is proof. Go and solve your clients' problems and you'll win. Support for this show comes from Net Registry, a one-stop shop for getting your online marketing sorted. Verity Ma, their Chief Marketing Officer, recently told me this story of a very happy mechanic.
So one of my favourite stories of customers that I heard was a salesperson was talking to a mechanic and he was talking about what sort of email he would like to have and what kind of hosting, whether he wants cloud or cPanel hosting. And the mechanic just said, look, I don't care, build my website, here's my phone number, make my phone ring and send me the bill. And that was the last we heard of him. He didn't provide us content. He didn't provide us any details about his business. We had his contact details. We wrote all the content and we just got his phone ringing and sent him the bill.
Net Registry, where happy mechanics go to grow their business online. Visit netregistry.com.au or give them a buzz on 1300 638 734. And tell them Timbo sent you.
Get on Timbo's mailing list over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.
Griffo.
Timbo.
How are you, mate?
Mate, I'm close to death.
You and me both.
Close to death. How have we managed to pull this episode together with man flu?
I don't know. I certainly know that I'm not getting any sympathy from around here, so that's why I called you. We didn't have an episode planned.
We just needed some loving. We needed some loving as survivors of... well, we haven't survived yet. Let's not get preemptive about this. This
correct.
could go anyway. We might not make it.
Listen, I don't know. I've never had a baby, but man flu, is it like giving birth? Is it that?
Why are you asking me?
You read into that what you like, hey? Just stirring the pot, ladies. Just stirring the pot. Hey, matey, I reckon we get stuck into this. This is looking at this topic, one could argue that it's a little somber. How to stay productive in business during a crisis. Mm-hmm. Somber? Let's look for gags along the way.
To just lighten things up a bit when we're talking about dealing with crisis. Okay,
yeah.
It is a bit somber. But it's a good topic to talk about. We all have to deal with crisis at some stage. So if you don't deal with it right, well, maybe things do get more somber.
Correct.
You lose your business.
Well, and let's define crisis, because in the context of this question about how to stay productive in business during a crisis, we're not talking about losing a staff member. We are talking about the proverbial hitting the fan, either in one's personal life or business life, yeah?
I think so. Maybe you lose that big client, lose a contract.
Death in the family?
Death in the family, absolutely. Illness, business owner.
Man flu. I mean, this is why we're doing this topic.
Exactly. Is there a more relevant topic to be talking about now?
I don't think so.
But when you mix them all together, I kind of think of it maybe as anything that could actually risk our business. We might have lose our house kind of thing. Same thing. Yeah. Realistically, a crisis which is serious enough that it has big ramifications.
Okay, good definition. So we've both got quite a few points of how to get through this. What's your first one, mate? Are you keeping your powder dry, or are you leading with the big gun?
I always keep the powder a little bit dry, but I've certainly dealt with some crisis in business and personal crisis, health issues, death in the family, all those kind of things. So always while I've been self-employed, I kind of really thought back about those times. What did I do? Because I remember just how challenging they actually were. And I think one of the things that I found really important for me was to establish new routines and rituals for when I'm going through this crisis period. So, for example, I might have had my routines and rituals beforehand that used to, get stuff done and all the rest of it. But all of a sudden, when there was a death in the family, it really impacted me very hard. My sister had died quite suddenly. And for me, it was like, okay, I felt like I was falling apart and I needed to really do something pretty significant in the business. So I knew that I had to do something like, I'd taken some time off, but I was back at work. But I made a point of every hour I would go for a walk around the block of this office building where I was, just simply to kind of just get out in the sun, just to take my mind off and walk around and compose myself and kind of get back. And I found that ritual, having that normality of having a ritual, was actually very, very peaceful, and it certainly helped me to just get my act together. For whatever reason, I had that 5-minute breather every hour. To
even find the headspace to make the decision to take a walk around the block every hour, that's pretty good, because often in a crisis, there's that saying, we lose our heads, and to think straight is really, really hard. And you almost need someone, I remember my old man died when I was working in corporate, so I was in a job as opposed to running my own business. But I do remember becoming quite manic. It was my way of masking. I actually went into work the next day, and it was reflecting back, it was my way of kind of not accepting that it had happened. But I did have my boss at the time, who really kind of just said, he sat me down, he said, this is what we're going to do, right? And it was good. I said, look, I actually want to stay at work. I was working in an advertising agency, and it was actually an opportunity. I got the invitations for the funeral done, and I did a whole lot of stuff, while I was there. So I said, look, I want to stay here at least for a couple of days. But it was just lovely to have that person come in over the top. And
a bit of normality is the other part of that. Sometimes, as emotional a time as that must have been, there's something familiar and comfortable about your desk, about the people around you. It's quite awkward for them, of course. People don't really know how to handle that. But if you've got someone like your boss, wow, that's wonderful to have someone like you.
Yeah, it was amazing. Just on that, people around you, like during a crisis, Griffo, I wonder whether, and it may depend on the type of crisis, but we're talking to business owners in this show. Do you go and tell those around you, hey, listen, there's something going on at home, I'm not going to be myself? Do you tell clients, suppliers? Because there is a pressure in hiding behind something?
There was. That's my take on it. I think it used to be that, stiff upper lip kind of thing. Personally, I think it's great when people tell you that something's going on and you can deal with it, you can help them, you can support them. I have this quite often. A supplier will ring and, say, oh, my kids are sick or whatever. Not a crisis, but a problem. At least you can deal with it. Or someone else will say, oh, look, a family member's died and I've got to deal with this for the next couple of weeks. I'd much rather that than they try and hold it together. And then you're getting irritated with them and adding pressure to them because they're dropping the ball and not doing a good job. I think we're much more mature these days, and we're much more able to help other people. If we don't know, we try and fudge our way through it.
There will be business owners listening to this going, I could never say that to my staff. I could never open up like that. I wonder whether... Well, I'm guessing. I wonder whether, therefore, the question is, are you creating the type of environment at work that is the best environment?
Absolutely. I mean, I found in the times when I've had crisis and I've told my staff and I've said to them, guys, I need your help. I need you to step up. And because I'm kind of falling apart. And I'm sorry. It'll be okay, but right here, right now, I've got things that I've got to do and I've got to deal with. They were fabulous. I think about every single time that had happened to me in some shape or form, my team were amazing, and it really was very supportive because all they said was, "You don't worry about one thing. We're going to look after the business. It'll be fine. We'll let everyone know. Nothing's going to happen. You go and do what you need to do," and it was fabulous.
I just think businesses that don't wait for the crisis to happen. Business owners that actually create an environment, like I know businesses that have doona days, right? They get 2 or 3 doona days a year, acknowledging the fact.
You realise.
What's that?
I am in Cairns, you realise.
These are linen sheet days. But that basically says, hey, listen, guys, we're all human. We all have dark days, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, you don't need to ring and lie that you're crook. You don't need to hide behind anything. Just say, doona day, and no questions asked. And again, that's not waiting for a crisis to happen. And so when a crisis does happen, I just think it leads to a more open communication inside the business.
I think it's a great point and something that I think we should all be doing in business. But another interesting kind of thing that comes out of that as well, that if you're communicating openly and we're concerned about telling our customers or our clients that something's wrong, I think that's actually doing your customers and your clients a disservice. I think that, they're not going to dump you for business if you say, hey, someone's died and I need to take a month off and do this. They're not going to do that. If they're going to do that, did you want to do work with them anyway? Realistically, I think that when I've been in that situation where a supplier has said to me, I've got this problem, my response is, how can I help? You tell me what I can do to help, or I just kind of want to know that you're not going to go somewhere else if we can't service your work for a month. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Don't even give that a second thought. I'll give you so much work when you're back on board, you won't know what to do with it. So for now, go and do what you're doing. And I think that enables other people to help you. Because you're right. What you said earlier on, we're kind of stiff upper lip. We got to manage all of this on our own. And I see the problem with that is when you're a business owner trying to manage it all on your own and not show anyone, they know anyway that something's wrong. We can't hide it. But all that happens is it takes you forever to recover. And I don't think you actually really do recover. You just hide stuff away and it comes up somewhere else down the line, worse.
Well, here's the thing. I think there's also a lot of business owners, and I've been guilty of this, of wearing the undies on the outside, right? Being a superhero. And try and be a superhero during a crisis, and that can often end in tears because you can't do it all yourself. And again, it's interesting, this discussion is about what staying productive during a crisis, but I just think there's also some wonderful learnings of right now, when you are in non-crisis mode, to establish a business that can handle a crisis no matter what happens.
Awesome point to make. A business that's resilient enough that if something terrible happened, you'd be able to survive it because you have the right attitude, the right philosophy, the right people, the right culture. I think that's absolutely essential. And the reality is we never know. And I know that's an obvious thing to say, but I had a buddy of mine 2 weeks ago, runs an advertising agency, went to the doctor on a Friday afternoon, had a quadruple bypass on the Sunday.
What?
Off work for 4 months. There's only 2 of them, 2 partners in this business, and they have an extraordinary relationship. Now, this business will get through, it'll be fine and dandy.
Well, let's just what is extraordinary about that relationship? Because that's significant.
And interesting. Well, the first and foremost, I got a phone call from my friend's business partner to tell me that he's just had a quadruple bypass. So that was the first thing that I thought, wow, this guy who I don't know as well has rung me to let me know that my friend was ill, all the rest of it. I said, well, Roberto, my head goes, is this chap alive? And he said, yeah, he's okay, prognosis is good. And then, of course, my business owner hat went on, and I said, how long is he off for? And he said, 4 to 6 months probably. It was pretty bad. And I said, how are you going to run the business? How are you going to? And he said, that's okay. We've thought about stuff like this. We've talked about it. We've got mechanisms in place. The only thing that matters is that Sen gets better. That he said that's the only thing that matters.
So they talked about it. They talked about it. They'd put plans in place. They had an open enough relationship. Probably the same. They've talked about it with clients, and there's no surprises. So I remember it's a wonderful thing, and it relates to this discussion. Like no surprises was in the terms and conditions of a business that I used to do some work for.
Right.
And that's great. Okay, cool. In order for no surprises, then you got to lay your hand out. You got to lay your cards down and say, this is where we're at. This is how we go about business. And I like that.
Yeah, interesting. And again, it comes back to that whole culture concept and that honest discussions. What's the worst that can happen? And even when we, talking again back to productivity, I mean, I know for myself, after my sister had passed away and I went back to work, I probably went back to work a little bit earlier. And I really wasn't ready. Like I was still quite teary and it was a very difficult and emotional time for me. But I did find that a couple of people, like your boss, actually, one of my clients in particular was an older guy who I'd been working with for about 10 years. And he just took me aside and he said, look, Andrew, you've come back to work too early, but I get that, that's how you're one of those guys, you bury yourself in your work and all the rest of it. But he said, but I'm going to check in with you once a week. And I'm going to ask you how you are, and I don't want bullshit. I don't want you to turn around and go, oh, I'm fine. I want you to tell me how you are, and I'm going to commit to doing this for the next 1 year.
Yep.
And he did. Every week on a Friday morning, this guy rang me, and I went, God, how amazing. I even went to the point where I'm going, look, Peter, you don't need to ring me anymore. I'm okay. And he said, yeah, I've been there as well. And he said, next week you might not be.
Yeah,
and it might be a 30-second phone call. And I thought, well, interesting. So what I've learned out of a lot of this is how other people have treated me when I've been in a crisis has really framed how I treat other people in a crisis. And I think that the two ideally go a little bit hand in hand, that we get better at helping others and we also get better at asking for help around there. And it's easy to get dismissive of this stuff, but I think it's vitally important.
Listeners, we are talking about how to stay productive in business during a crisis. And Griffo, a little thing like some wonderful quotes like this too shall pass. Often we kind of get so immersed in what is happening that we just think this is how it's going to be now forever. And everything passes,
It does. And you always come out better in some shape or form. And I know that, again, we can kind of go, they're such cliche thoughts. But when you go through these things, they're the truth. Things take time. It takes time to recover. You'll be a different person at the other side of it. But you do at some stage have to function. You've got to, you've got to run your business. You've got to be, you've got to be doing work. And I think that you've got to do the things that are you've got to ease yourself in gently. And you've also got to be able to read yourself. And as you say, have a doona day.
Doona day.
You go, look, guys, I'm really sorry, but it's just not working today. And the rest of the team, no worries, we'll pick up. We'll pick up that. We can do that. We can manage that. You go, that's perfect.
I'm going to get a bit woo-woo on you, right?
It's not very funny business, though, today, is it? We're not very funny.
It's sort of serious business.
Somber business today.
But the woo-woo part of it is, and I always do this, when I have, whether it be a large crisis or a mini crisis, is like, what's the learning? And it's not an easy question to ask or even to remember to ask in the heat of the moment. But I do believe that we are delivered things in our business and personal life for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. So asking yourself, you say, well, great, what's the learning from a family member passing away? Well, I don't know the answer to that, but what can you learn from it? What can you do differently if this is how it's, if you're in this place right now, what can you do to take something from it?
Yep, absolutely.
It's easier said than done. The other thing is self-talk during a crisis too, like just checking what you're saying to yourself. That bloke who asked you to call, who checked in every week, you're saying, well, I'm all right now, but he's like, what are we saying to ourselves in between times? Because sometimes you wouldn't say to your best friend what you say to yourself.
No, exactly. Well, and also another part of that, I think that leads on for me is when your team have stepped up. And sorry, just to frame this a little bit, I used to do a lot of PR. So, and one of the areas that I did PR was in crisis management. So we had to deal with things like plane crashes, death on, in a workplace, people killed in industrial accidents, companies going broke, that's a crisis and all the rest of it. But you have to deal with those things. And normally, like a death in a workplace was the worst of the worst, of course. Mm-hmm. And the entire business just comes to a standstill. It's complete shock. Everyone is in shock. Or an employee dying suddenly, not of an accident, but of, a heart attack or something. And everyone kind of goes through the motions and goes, well, that's terrible, but we've got to do our job and get on with it. But what can often happen is several months afterwards, like everyone's had to step up and do what they need to do while people manage it. But then a kind of depression can settle in on the business. And I've had people talk about this phenomenon in the PR space, say, well, the business doesn't go broke in that first couple of months. People kind of do what they need to do and rally around. But then the depression can kind of set in with everyone a couple of months later. And once they're over the initial crisis, but they're just kind of exhausted by it, the real danger zone can be then. The next 2 or 3 months, they stop being productive. They stop doing the work. More sick days start to happen. It's because they haven't actually dealt with it as such. They haven't really kind of framed it. They haven't really kind of said, okay, well, this has happened. We need to understand it, talk about it. How do we all feel? And how do we move on from here? And it's another interesting part of this process.
Griffo, we have covered, I reckon there's a good 10 points about how to stay productive in business during a crisis. Not a lot of gags there. Lots of good learnings. Hopefully, if someone is listening to this and a crisis does happen in the future, they'll manage it a little bit better. But I'm going to ask you for your top 3 jokes now. No, I'm not. That would be unfair. That's always a hard one. It's like, tell me a joke. I haven't got one. I had one, but I've forgotten it. But, always hard. Always hard.
You can't do that on a sombre topic with man flu.
No.
Geez.
Hey, Griffo, thanks, mate. We're both a bit under the pump here, falling off our chairs with the man flu. I think we got there. I hope that was a productive, useful episode of understanding just what you can do in a crisis to stay productive. And maybe we'll hear from the odd listener who implements one of those little learnings we shared.
And maybe another thing people get out of it, though, is how to help other people that are going through a crisis as well. And so it might not just be you going through a crisis, but it's someone who you're working with or maybe that'll help.
So just to be clear there, it's not all about me?
No. Well, most of the time it's about me.
Right.
But I'm happy to share the stage.
Thanks, buddy.
Good on you, mate. Thanks, Timbo. Thanks, folks.
Righto. Did you find that helpful? I reckon it was helpful. It just wasn't that funny. And funny for me is a criteria I put on myself, a pressure that I unnecessarily put on myself. But I would hope that it differentiates this show from other marketing podcasts. But, every now and then you've got to have the serious conversation. So, my top 3 learnings from talking to Griffo about working through a crisis. Thanks to the very, very good folk at Net Registry who get your online marketing sorted, and the guys at 99 Designs who will get you a design you'll love, guaranteed. Now, number 1, create an open, transparent workplace where employees know that it's okay to share. That'd be a great thing to be proud of, that knowing that you, the boss, have created a workplace like that. Learning number 2, look out for those around you. They may even be in the middle of a crisis right now and not telling anyone. There's a wonderful campaign in Australia called Are You OK Day, which I really like. It's generally around depression and anxiety, that campaign, but just looking out for our workers, for everyone around us, Sometimes we think, they were a bit weird towards me, but don't take it personally. They got a crisis going on. So maybe have your crisis antennae a little bit more active going forward. Learning number 3, reduce your expectations around your productivity during a crisis. Don't be so harsh on yourself. What did you learn? I would love to know. Okay, I'm going to bang on for a minute. Not a minute, 30 seconds. Leave a comment in the show notes of this episode. The show notes are like the blog post for this episode. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, look out for episode 256, just key that into the search box and leave a comment. What did you learn? What did you take away from this episode? Maybe we missed something. Maybe there's a learning that you can share. share it. You'll make a difference. You'll even get a backlink back to your website. And that's got a lot of Google juice about it. So, see you in the show notes. That very well-known marketer, Martin Luther King, once said, "If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you must keep moving forward."
Smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.
Love that quote. Always got to keep moving forward. That's progress. Be productive. Don't let perfection get in the way. Righto, I've got a listener question from Joan. Don't know how to pronounce it. Spelled Joern. I'm going to call him or her Joe. I'm sorry. I know I'm not very good with non-Aussie names. They say, "Dear Timbo, I run a small online marketing agency out of Hamburg, Germany. Just a quick question. Is there a reason why you do not link to your Facebook page and Twitter account on your website? At least I couldn't find your social media profiles and had to look for you via the still weak Facebook internal search. Just curious. All the very best to you and keep it up. Joe." Thanks, Joe. That's a really good question. My very simple response, very embarrassed to say this, is that I'm slack. I put my Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn links in the about part of my website. Where I rattle on about myself, I've got my social media links, but they're kind of hidden, right? I am very keen to keep visitors on my site, Joe. I want them to listen to my podcast. I want them to join my forum. I want you to join my forum. I want you to read my blogs, I should say, and I want you to join my list. So if I send you off easily to Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all that, you'll be watching cats fall off ladders within 30 seconds. Because whilst the Small Business Big Marketing's Facebook page is kind of funny, where I share the lighter side of marketing, you know what Facebook's like. You just skip over to your timeline and the next thing you know, you're just seeing who's with who and eating what and why and all that type of stuff. That said, I have now added all my social media links, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Google+, YouTube, Meetup, to the footer of my website over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. So there was an element of slackness, an element of I just want to keep you on my website, but I found a nice little kind of midway point. So, Joe, thank you so much for your question all the way from Hamburg, Germany. And if you've got a question for me, guys, head over to the contact button on smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and you can flick me an email and I might just address it on the show. Righto. Hey, it's a long show, wasn't it? Longer than normal. I'm trying to get them down to 30 minutes. Not always easy. Needs to be as long as it needs to be, not a second more. I felt it needed to be longer today. Hey, there's plenty of marketing gold coming up. In the coming episode, I will be talking to that memory coach that I've been mentioning, who's memorised the yellow pages, and he's going to show me how to remember people's names. I am hopeless at remembering people's names. Great with faces. I've met you, but I just don't know your name. What's your name again? So he's going to help me overcome that very rude part of my existence. Hey, be sure to use Net Registry to get all your online marketing sorted. New packages they have over at netregistry.com.au/Timbo. Got a new ad for them coming out soon, which will talk about one of their wonderful do-it-yourself website packages. Do it for me, I should say. Do it for me, not do it yourself. And 99 Designs, thanks guys. You can head over there, 99designs.com/Timbo to get a design you'll love within 7 days guaranteed and a free $99 upgrade to your briefing. Gotta love that. Hey, if you do use any of my sponsors with great success, please let me know. Email me, tim@smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. If you're serious about taking your marketing to the next level, join the inner circle, the forum, over at crankmymarketing.com. And if you've got a conference coming up, then book me. I promise not to disappoint. Until next week, I'm Timbo Reid. Always have been, always will be. May your marketing be the best marketing Bye for now.